Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Things change fast in the world of sports, and so my Monday musings that I recorded today, late in the morning, gets changed radically, and we'll open it up right here with the fact that Patrick Mahomes is going to be a Kansas City Chief for the next 10 years, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. I don't think there was much surprise that Patrick Mahomes was going to be a Kansas City Chief for the next 10 years anyway, but he now has been set reportedly to sign a 10-year extension through the year 2031. Of course, he's just a year removed from his first league MVP and just 4 months after leading the Chiefs to the Super Bowl. It is reportedly the richest deal in NFL history. That also not a big surprise. It is perhaps a little bit rare to see a contract extension of this length. 10 years, but it's also quite rare to see a quarterback accomplish what Mahomes has this part early in his career. I think we all knew that an NFL quarterback like Patrick Mahomes is going to be with his team in all likelihood throughout his entire career. Maybe at the bitter end we start to see those things change like with Tom Brady. Well, of course, this indeed will impact Chris Jones because they're doing this deal now, not waiting on this deal. And to me, this probably means the end of Chris Jones in Kansas City, but you never know. Things can be creative, but certainly it can't help Chris Jones' cause at this point in time that this deal has been agreed to. If they had been able to sign Chris Jones by now, they were going to have to sign Patrick Mahomes anyway. It doesn't look like there was any kind of hometown discount in any way, shape, or form. It's an NFL record contract. So the big news on this Monday, breaking after I originally did my Monday musings, is that Patrick Mahomes has signed a 10-year extension or has agreed to sign a 10-year extension. And, of course, I'm sure all the fine details will be coming out because this is the kind of deal that an agent's going to want to crow about because it'll be the richest deal in NFL history, and those are the type of things that will easily get into the news because the agent will want to get that out, and the team won't really care because it's Patrick Mahomes, and Chiefs fans will know, barring injury, they will have the best quarterback in the National Football League for the next decade. That kind of dwarfs all the other stuff that's been going on over the weekend, but still, it's a lot of stuff that's fun and important and goofy and serious, all balled into one, and all of that comes your way next as we continue with Monday Musings, Danny Sports Watch, and this now becomes the Patrick Mahomes-centric version, and coming up next, you can hear all the other tidbits that make up our Monday musings right here on the Reasonably Irreverent podcast. My friends at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture are among the most accomplished and trusted clinics in the nation. Only one clinic has been rated in the top 5 in all 3 categories of chiropractic care, acupuncture, and rehabilitation, and that clinic is ASFCA. They have locations in Olathe, Overland Park, Prairie Village, Belton, and Lee Summit. Doctors Brad and Christina Woodle and their accomplished team of doctors and therapists will treat you like family, for the simplest of injuries to the most complicated conditions to avoid surgery. Whether you are seeking treatment for an injury or just looking to stay healthy and fit, this is the place for you. And it's been the place for me for almost 2 years now. I've been a strenuous daily exerciser for years, and as time goes on, that takes its toll. But regular appointments at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture have helped keep me ticking on, and even as the years pile up, their regular care has allowed me to keep to my regimen and feel great. If you want to feel the same, give them a call or visit them at asfca.com/Danny. They accept all insurances and are open Monday through Saturday, and make sure to mention that Danny Clinkscale recommended Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised amazed where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson and Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome back to Monday Musings, Danny Sports Wrap, and as we speak today, the Kansas City Royals will hit the field in little waves the way they do it, groups of players going out for organized on-field activities, and they're doing it, of course, without Salvador Perez for a while. He was the first Royals player to test positive. What I found a little bit interesting is that Major League Baseball announced late last week that they would only say that players were going on the IL during the course of the season, and they weren't going to say what the reason was why players were not playing in games. Now, that does not seem to be the case in the workouts, and maybe that's not going to be the case when the season starts either, because teams are announcing players by name, be it Salvador Perez, be it Freddie Freeman, and that seems to be the common way of going about it, and that seems like it would peel into the season, and I think really that's the best way to do it, because I think all of this creates the awareness that's necessary to get people to take things a little bit more seriously if prominent people that they see and admire talk about the fact that they were affected by testing positive, like Mike Matheny did, and saying that he didn't feel right, and that if somebody wasn't in the kind of physical condition he was, that it would have knocked him for a loop. Salvador Perez, of course, is asymptomatic, and that actually creates a lot of times more concern. Whit Merrifield addressed the fact that he had a test, and it took longer than most tests to have the results returned, and that he was kind of in a worrying mode, knowing that he wasn't around Salvador Perez because he never actually came into the facility, into the stadium, but that other players could be asymptomatic and be around a player and obviously be a potential danger to those players. And we start to see more and more players, and it's not a tidal wave yet. It's, as I mentioned in the open, it's more of a drip, 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 who are deciding not to play. Nick Markakis came out today. He's the second Braves player who decided to opt out for the season. That came in the wake of 4 positive tests in the Braves camp. The Washington Nationals and Houston Astros both postponed workouts for today. Washington criticizing Major League Baseball for taking too long to have the tests processed, and that creating uncertainty for them. So we do see all these kind of things occurring, and I say it each and every week, and, I hope it doesn't be the case. I hope that the more work that's done, the more people paying attention to doing things right, the extreme measures that leagues are going to try and get these games played and get some revenue coming in and get some entertainment out to the people, I hope it works, but I think the fatigue factor more and more is building, and I think there's more and more possibility that we're going to see things like college football not being played this fall. And we've seen really high levels of positive tests as far as MLS is concerned. That tournament is slated to get underway within a week. Will it happen? Will it start? Will it finish? We'll just have to wait and see. But each day there seems to be more and more hurdles being raised for getting these games played and played successfully and maybe played to a conclusion, and we'll have to wait and see whether that plays out that way. Sporting Kansas City waited till the very last day that they could. Well, it was supposed to be the last day they could. Then Colorado decided they were going to leave the day before the tournament actually starts. And Peter Vermees talked about it last week in sort of more of a competitive way, that we expect to be there to the finish, so why should we be early? Whereas teams had been there several days before Sporting Kansas City went down there. But Sporting slated to play and slated to start up this weekend, and we'll see if yet another league gets cranked up as we start to get a return to action. Well, the other big issue of the spring and summer, obviously, is the Black Lives Matter movement, and all that momentum has resulted in a variety of things and a variety of pressures, and one of those that certainly over the last few days has come into serious focus has been the potential for changing sports names, and I think we just see the changing tenor of the times, the changing tenor of people's attitudes, which is what the whole idea of protesting is all about, creating an atmosphere where before you couldn't get these sports names changed, and people would come up with reasons and explain away things and talk about the history of a name or whatever as that being the reason that we can't do anything. Well, now people are finding that they can do something, and they will do something. And, of course, at the bottom of it a lot of times is money, and that certainly is the case in the case of the Washington Redskins, as several of their sponsors, and including people who own a share of the team, put pressure on them, FedEx being the largest one, of course, and that's the title sponsor of the stadium that the Washington Redskins play in. And it seems now very, very likely that the Redskins will change their name, perhaps to the Red Tails. That seems to be the favorite now, which would be an homage to the Tuskegee Airmen, whose planes were dubbed Red Tails, and pretty seamless way to change it. And the sports teams that we're talking about in colleges and things like that, they fall into very different categories. But the Redskins, to me, has always been pretty darn cut and dried. Yes, if you are the Atlanta Braves, Braves is a strong word. Chiefs is a strong word. You can talk about the fact for the Chiefs, in fact, that there wasn't really an Indian reference, although all the things that they do with the tomahawk chop and everything are Native American in nature, but that the team was actually named for Roy Bartle of Bartle Hall, whose nickname was the Chief. Indians, for instance, is just stating the word, and they did already get rid of the Chief Wahoo, which was pretty offensive caricature of Native Americans, and that happened a couple of years ago, but the Indians' name had stayed. So those are all a little bit arguable. I still think there's no reason, if a group of your fans can be very much offended by something like that and or the gestures that go along with it, then there's no reason to have a name like that. Just have an innocuous name that's cute or funny or whatever, and that's the case. But like I said, there are two sides to some of these, but to me, there's no two sides to Redskins. Redskins is a racial slur, plain and simple. And I think that this isn't even going too far. I've made these analogies before. If somebody tried to call the New Orleans franchise the New Orleans N-words, or the Chicago Darkies, or the New York Guidos, nobody would even give two thoughts to the fact that you couldn't do that. And while obviously that Redskins is kind of an old-time word, an old-time slur, just the old-time slurs that I just used right there would be equally offensive to many groups, and Redskins was just pure and simple a racial slur. And for it to have carried the name of the team for all this time is really, to me, quite offensive. You can do all the polling you want and say that, well, a large majority of Native Americans don't really care about the issue, but that means that a reasonable minority of Native Americans are very much offended, and there's just no reason for it. This is the entertainment business. And in the entertainment business, you're not out there to offend a certain portion of your fan base. And in this atmosphere where people really want their voices heard, and across all races and creeds, and I think that the fact that this is a Native American issue should resonate even more now, because it is not just a black issue. It is an issue of another minority, and another minority that is in a way being slandered by this name. I think the name will change, and after a few years, after a few months, I don't think anybody will even care. Hundreds, literally, of colleges over the past 25, 30 years have changed their name from previously Indian references to something far more innocuous. And it was in a collegiate atmosphere where, college students are generally more politically active than the populace in general, and so that probably was behind it. And some would argue, of course, that universities are a more liberal place, and that political correctness per se is more de rigueur at those places. Well, to me, it's kind of appropriate there too. You're going to have a portion of your student body and or your faculty who are offended by these names. Why have them as nicknames? It's not that important. It's not the University of Kansas Jayhawks is not the name of the university. It's just the name of the sports teams. So those sports teams should indeed just be things that aren't really offensive, be it a mythical bird or a powerful animal or whatever that you decide for your name. So it seems like the Redskins will be a thing of the past. Ron Rivera, their head coach, has said that he has names to come up with for the team. Terry Francona, the Indians manager, says that it's time for them to move on from that name, and names change throughout the years. Names and teams have changed, franchises move, and also in an atmosphere in the last 15 years or so where multiple uniforms, which are part of the entertainment, are used, and uniforms change, and that particular part of the history of the team changes. Why not a name that can be offensive to a certain portion of the populace? I think that makes perfect sense, and I think that we have now seen some of the impact that the times being changed are having, that kneeling is going to be completely acceptable. We've already seen it in multiple sports around the world, and it's just a form of protest that brings awareness. This awareness can create positive change, and in my mind, changing some of these names is a positive move, and that atmosphere is becoming a positive. I think at the outset, when obviously there were some violent reactions in the protests, that created a negative look to the impact that could be made by the Black Lives Matter and other imperatives, but that was just very short-lived, and then the message started ringing completely true, and basically, since the first week or so, almost every single protest that you see is peaceful and does not need any police intervention or conflict, and so I think we have seen real positives, and I think this potentially is another one. Well, the back half of Monday Musings, Danny Sports Wrap, will be more a look at actual sports things, maybe goofy little occurrences, things that I don't like that capture the fancy of the populace, like the hot dog eating contest, and maybe a little discussion about something that we do in sports, which is discuss records and records that may never be broken. All that straight ahead as we continue with Monday Musings, Danny Sports Wrap, right here on the Reasonably Irreverent podcast.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the CEO and president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you had a great year in 2019, a record year. 2020 comes, things are moving smoothly along, and then the coronavirus comes. But your company seemed to be very ready, very proactive, and very ready to serve your customers well.
Yeah, we adopted social distancing very early before the cities even put out the notices. And we started working from home. We are largely cloud-based as a company, so that transition was easy. Our technicians are wearing masks and gloves, and salespeople are not meeting with homeowners. We're doing everything digitally and doing everything we can to do our part to get over this as quickly as possible.
So for any needs that people have right now, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can always call us, 913-257-5426. But the best way is to go to eastonroofing.com, put your information in, and we'll give you a call.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. We're visiting with Larry Marshall, former Chiefs defensive back and punt returner and now a Chiefs ambassador. Larry is a former pro football player with the aches and pains that come with that, and moving on in age as we all are. What do the Canaway CBD products do for you?
It's been a great relief for me. Being a punt and kickoff returner, collisions were a mainstay of my career, and these Canaway products, the salve especially, has really helped me try to get through every day with the aches and pains that I've had over a career of 7+ years in the NFL.
I get similar benefits as well, particularly with my back. Certainly wasn't a football player. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information about the great products themselves?
Well, I'm so enthused about it, Dana. If they just contact me at larrymarshall.canaway.com, and I can give them all the information they need to help them get through the day as well.
Start gaining all the benefits that Larry and I do from the trusted and reliable line of Canaway products. As Larry said, visit larrymarshall.canaway.com and get information on all the great products from Canaway. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Let's start part 2 with something completely trivial. For whatever reason, all of a sudden, one time in the past year, a thread came through my email that comes every day sometimes, and it's just called Quora Digest. And generally, it's little questions that are asked in the sports and music world, and then somebody answers it. And it's not an expert, or it's somebody who clearly thinks it through and really is some sort of an expert on that particular question, but nobody that you'd heard of or anything like that. And some of them are pretty fascinating. Some of them I can pass on by, and they basically are all about 2 of my big passions, which are sports and music. So it's kind of interesting. One came across today that I thought was really interesting, and it was, what are the top 5 toughest MLB records to ever be broken from 5 through 1? And I'll just read them off and say whether I agree or disagree that these are somewhat unassailable. Number 5 is career triples, 309, and I think that probably that should be number 1. Actually, all of these could make a case for being number 1. Nobody's ever going to get 309 triples again. First of all, I mean, the current active leader is 131, and that's Jose Reyes. He's 35 years old. He's barely a third of the way. Basically, balls go over the fence, people strike out, they don't put the ball in play as much. These stadiums are much smaller than when these records were set. I mean, there's a million reasons why nobody's even going to come close to 309 triples. It's rated number 5 here. I think it could easily be number 1. Consecutive no-hitters, 2, Johnny Vandermeer. Of course, to break the record, someone would have to throw 3 consecutive complete game no-hitters, and only 5 players in history have thrown 3 in their entire careers. On top of that, the season leader for just complete games these days is like 2 or 3 in a year. So that easily could have a case for being number 1 as well. Single season wins, 59. Charles Radbourne, way back, or even if the modern record, 41. Enough said. 41 wins. Are you kidding? It's hard enough for people to get to 20 wins these days, and so that's not going to happen. In fact, these 5 probably should be in a 5-way tie for first. Career shutouts, 110, Walter Johnson. Same thing we were talking about before. There's only 2 or 3 complete games per year to lead the league. How's anybody going to throw 110 shutouts in a career? The current active leader is Clayton Kershaw. How many career shutouts does he have? 15. So again, probably another tie for first for that one. But somebody has to pick a number 1, and I guess this fits just as well as any of the others, but probably is in the same category of completely unassailable, and that's most Grand Slams in a single inning. 2, Fernando Tatis did that, and of course, to break that record, someone would have to hit 3 Grand Slams in the same inning. Frankly, I think that's a little bit more likely than the other things. It's possible that you could get 3 at-bats in an inning. The bases would have to be loaded, however, that third time around. I don't know. It's a tiny amount. It's arguable. All 5 of them will never be broken. And I saw one thing the other day that talked about Cal Ripken's record. That's just something that people have to decide they could do. I mean, it's a difficult record. There's no question about that, and hardly anybody even plays 162 games in one season now. But that's just more of a decision-making one. It's physically possible for it to be done. These, given the context of the game, I don't think can be done. So a little light, silly fun for you right there. I wrote a blog on Sunday that was just silly fun. We need a little silly fun these days. Well, silly fun in the world of golf right now is Beefcake Bryson DeChambeau, after 6 consecutive top 8 finishes, finally broke through and won. And the big story, of course, with him is that he has bulked himself up to a huge amount. And in fact, he's bulked himself up in a way that he decided was best for golf. He's big, but he doesn't even look that cut. He's got a big midriff and big torso, and he's decided that's a good way to hit the golf ball a long way, and he is. He is hitting it further than anybody. He is taking on corners. He is driving the ball 20, 30, 40 yards past everybody else, setting up great opportunities for himself, and yesterday he won the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit, and he did it rather easily, and shooting the lowest score of the day on a day when scoring was a little bit higher than it had been before. And I was asked on Friday by Seren Petro if this was the new wave of golf. And I think in some ways, maybe in the short term, people could decide that this is something they might want to do. But the other part of golf, no matter what, is that you have to put the ball in the hole, and Bryson DeChambeau made a considerable amount of putts yesterday, which has nothing to do with driving the ball a long way, although driving the ball a long way gives you more opportunity to be closer to the hole and the opportunity to make more putts. But he made a considerable amount of putts that weren't just a couple of feet long. There's certainly the possibility that Bryson DeChambeau is going to break down. Every golfer who has tried to bulk up in a considerable fashion has seen his body break down. Maybe he doesn't care. He's got 6 PGA Tour wins right now. He has become the betting favorite for the Masters as of this morning. I don't particularly fancy this with Bryson DeChambeau, and it's not because somebody else couldn't bulk up and hit the ball a long way. The second-place finisher in the tournament, Matthew Wolff, is also a very long hitter and hit the ball a long way with his unusual swing. He is not a particularly big guy. He's just wiry. You do not have to be really huge to hit the ball a long way. Justin Thomas is one of the longest hitters on the PGA Tour, and he's 5'10" and 170 pounds. But certainly can't hurt, and in Bryson DeChambeau's case, he is the added bulk and the fact that he swings like as hard as he can, which golfers usually don't do, has created this distance. And for him, it's working. But Bryson DeChambeau becoming a big star, to me, isn't great for the game. And it's not just because I think that long hitting is bad, although more and more and more people think that something has to be done or golf courses are just going to become completely obsolete for PGA Tour players. They're playing a different game, why they can't play a different ball and have it go shorter so that there still will be a longest hitter. There still will be a shortest hitter. It's just that the distance will be more amenable to great golf courses. But Bryson DeChambeau has a lot of things that are unlikable and not really fun for the world of golf per se anyway. He's overly analytical. He takes forever to play. Famously last year, this came to light because they have those TV productions now where they follow a particular group. Usually you wouldn't even notice this because they cut from shot to shot to shot in regular coverage, but it was feature group, so he was being taped and he was on camera, and he took 2 minutes and 9 seconds to hit one putt, a 9-foot putt, which he missed, by the way. And he also has a pretty good temper on the golf course, and Saturday, he snapped at a cameraman. Hey, everybody gets mad every now and then. I'm not going to hold that against him, but for one particular incident. But then afterwards, he said, we need our privacy out there. Sorry. This is like the star movie actress who complains about fame. Well, you've decided to become an actress and be in the movies. Unless you want to be bad at your craft, you're going to be famous. And so DeChambeau asking for privacy is kind of an absurd little enterprise. But I think his argument was he threw a little tantrum in the sand trap. The cameraman kind of followed him to the next tee box. I think the assertion for DeChambeau was that he was trying to catch him doing something. And, well, you just threw a tantrum in the bunker. A cameraman's job is to get a reaction, and if you're maybe more likely to do something else on the way to the next tee box, like snap at a fan or something like that, the cameraman's job is to chronicle that. And you're in the public eye. That's why you made $1.4 million to win a golf tournament yesterday. So, indeed, you need to shut up. And I don't think we need Bryson DeChambeau as the face of golf, but he is right now because he hits the ball miles and miles and miles. He plays the game in a completely different way. He uses the same length of clubs. He does things so he's a completely unique individual. And that way, that's interesting. But if he's going to be the biggest star in golf, I don't think that is actually a positive for the game. Probably need a little dose of Tiger back in the field so we don't talk about Bryson DeChambeau nonstop. Well, one thing that I don't consume each 4th of July weekend is the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. And, of course, I hear about it because it's a wildly popular event, and Joey Chestnut won it again, which is probably another reason why it's getting a little less interesting, because I think that's 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 9 that he's won. Seems to win every year. You're not going to get a gigantic amount of the population that actually wants to do this, but it's just disgusting to watch. I can't believe that people like watching it. I mean, if it was just that you racked up some hot dogs with some mustard on it and you ate them, even particularly fast, and the mustard was coming out the side of your mouth, all right, that might be mildly entertaining. Maybe not for me, but the dunking of the bun in the water and just mush being shoved into your face. I don't even know why anybody wants to watch that. But certainly I'm in a wild minority in that regard. I can't even watch the highlights of it. It just disgusts me. But people like it, and Nathan's Hot Dog certainly gets a lot of great publicity about out of it. And even this year, where it was done with no fans, as of course everything is done these days with no fans, it's still got a great TV audience, and a lot of people consider it a big part of their 4th of July weekend. Actually, the 4th of July weekend for me is nice because it's just an extra day of holiday. I'm not really the biggest fireworks person. I don't like the Nathan's Hot Dog eating contest. So some of the things that went around were not for me. And also there was no baseball this 4th of July weekend, which is a great American pastime on the holiday. But so there you go. In the back half of Monday Musings, Danny Sports Wrap, pretty lighthearted stuff amidst all of the things that are going on in the world of sports. And 1 week from now, we either will or will not be seeing MLS is back tournament going on. We will be 1 week closer to Major League Baseball resuming, if it indeed will. We may have a decision as far as college football is concerned, or growing closer to that. The Ivy League, as I mentioned at the outset, will be voting this week on whether to play spring football, and I think a lot of people think they are going to do that. And even though that is not big-time football per se, it is influential. The Ivy League was the first league that said they weren't going to play their postseason conference tournament, and they were kind of scoffed at the time, and within days, everybody had decided on the same thing, so there is some influence there, but a lot to be decided as the week goes on. We'll be back at it on Monday Musings, Danny Sports Wrap, next Monday, and of course during the course of the week, all of your regular podcasts and fun things here at DannyKlingscale.com, Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, Kansas City Profiles on Friday. This week will be Chris Ketz, the news anchor. He and I have similar backgrounds in broadcasting, as both of our fathers were broadcasters. We do those each and every week, and of course you can find all the archived content at DannyKlingscale.com. And don't forget the team pages as well. As sports return, more and more you need the continuous scroll of updated information you get at the team pages at DannyKlingscale.com. Make it your stop in the morning. Have a cup of coffee, settle down, and enjoy it. And I'll talk to you throughout the week. I don't go away for too long, usually no more than a day or so, and you can catch up with everything that I've done for the past 18 months at DannyKlingscale.com. It's all there. It never goes away, and, well, for better or for worse, I never really go away.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.